This is an All Ears English podcast, episode 4, How to Forget About Your English Mistakes. Welcome to the All Ears English podcast, where you'll finally get real native English conversation and fluency for business and life. We believe in connection, not perfection, when it comes to learning English. Now, here are your hosts, Lindsay McMahon, the English adventurer, and Michelle Kaplan, the New York radio girl, coming to you from Boston and New York City, USA. Want to forget about your English mistakes quickly? Be intentional about this one key decision. What is it? Find out in today's episode. Hey, Michelle, how's everything going in New York City?
Hey, Lindsay, everything's good. Everything's good. How are you?
Feeling good. Oh my gosh, Michelle, a lot of our listeners, they come to us and they ask us this one question. How can they forget about their English mistakes? How can they get over it and just connect, right? Because we believe in connection, not perfection here at All Ears English. But what is one practical thing they can actually do to get over their mistakes and move past them? What do you think?
Well, I think it's all about, really throwing yourself into the experience, right? Really just focusing on the experience instead. So like, for example, live in an international house or with American people when you're living in the United States, right? Just like you're all in. Lindsay, what do you think about that?
All in. I love that expression for our listeners today,
all
to
in.
Be all in, 100% immersed. Yeah, when I traveled in South America back in 2008. I lived for 3 months in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I was looking for an apartment. I found a place to live. It was truly an international house. There was a French woman, a French guy. There was an American guy, and there was me. And then there were 2 Italians, and there was an Argentine. All of us lived in a house together. We had our own rooms. We would have dinner together. But as soon as I went there to interview with them, they said, rule number 1, and the only rule of the house is that this is a Spanish-speaking house. So everyone there, except for the Argentine guy, were there to learn Spanish. So you weren't allowed to speak English at all in the house.
Oh, wow. So how was that experience for you? Like, were you worried about your mistakes, or did you then kind of just forget about it?
It was so cool. This is really, and we know not everyone is living abroad in an English speaking country, but if you have a chance to do something like this, guys, just do it, because at that point, the focus went on the relationships that I was building with my friends, my French friends in Spanish. We had some Italians in the house, so they were cooking dinner for us. Lovely dinners with wonderful Italian salsa, as they say, right? Oh, it was so cool. And then we would go out dancing in the Argentine evening. But yeah, that's where I really solidified fluency in that house, because I stuck to that rule, and it was pretty gutsy, I have to say. Actually, to just move in and do that. A lot of people, I think, would just be like, oh, I don't want to have to speak Spanish, or can't speak my native language. I can't agree to that. You are uncomfortable a lot of the time, guys, but these are the risks we have to take. Michelle, what do you think? Have you ever lived in an international house or been in this kind of situation?
Yeah, well, I've lived abroad a couple times, but I unfortunately, I wouldn't say that I've had the experience that you had, because I lived with mostly Americans. Yeah. So I was learning another language, but I was like in kind of a bubble. So we were then, able to speak English at the end of the day. And so I did take classes, but I do think it's like, I wish that I had that experience that you had, where you're like learning through living,
Yeah. So how did that work? So when you could always kind of fall back on English, right? If you couldn't explain something in the native language, the target language, you could fall back. Is that right?
Yeah. There was like no pressure. There were no stakes. It was kind of like, oh, I like to learn. Yeah. And I did, but I don't think that I was able to learn in the same way you were. And I wish that I had that experience, even though I was taking class, I was in it. Like, I was excited. Like, I don't know. There wasn't the same, like, the stakes were not as high. I love that expression too, guys. This is a bonus vocabulary word for today. Right, Michelle? What does that expression mean? Just so our listeners can write this down today. The stakes, when the stakes are high, it's like it matters a lot because for some specific reason. Like, so if the stakes are high when you're learning English, it's like they're high because you need to communicate. You don't have your first language to fall back on.
Exactly. So I think there is something to that because it's a mental shift that you go through. It's like you don't have a safety net. There's no safety net. There's nothing you can fall back on. You can't translate that into your native language. You have to find a way to, and that creates language flexibility. A lot of our listeners, we know, guys, you want to create that flexibility for yourself. Right, Michelle?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the moment, even though you think you'll focus more on your mistakes, probably you focus less because at first, maybe you focus more on the mistakes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like at first, like you said, it's uncomfortable. And then you start to, like you said, think about the relationships, think of like what's cooking, like what's going on. And and that will kind of, it changes the focus.
Right. Like it changes your options. So you change the focus. Yeah, I completely agree. So guys, how does this apply to our listeners? Guys, maybe you are getting ready to enroll in college in the US or the UK. Maybe you are just moving to California to work in Silicon Valley. You have a choice. Where are you going to live and who are you going to surround yourself with? Make the right choice, right, Michelle?
Excellent. I love it. Yeah, guys. Yeah, don't worry about your mistakes. Worry about those connections. Don't worry.
It's all about connection. That's why we believe in connection, not perfection. That's what we've been saying in the last few episodes. And that's the theme of All Ears English is connection, not perfection. So go for that house where you immerse yourself. Okay, Michelle. Hey, enjoy the rest of your day, okay?
Thanks. You too. Bye, guys.
Take care. Bye. Thanks for listening to All Ears English. And if you believe in connection, not perfection, follow our show wherever you listen to podcasts to make sure you don't miss anything. See you next time.